This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show today with lead singer, guitarist, and founder of the heavy metal band Prong, as well as former member of Danzig and Ministry, Tommy Victor. How important was it for you to get the lead guitarist spot for Danzig touring in 1996? And I know you're a Misfits fan.
At that period in time, unfortunately, it was money that I needed to pay the rent, and I think I didn't appreciate it as much. But I have so much respect for John Christ that I never felt like I fulfilled that role. I don't feel that like Danzig fans have embraced me ever, and I don't. I like the fact that I please Glenn. I appreciated being there, but I may be taking for granted a little bit.
Okay, that happens when you're young.
Yeah,
you take a lot of stuff for granted.
I took a lot for granted back then.
So, okay, would you consider Glenn Danzig a friend or an employer?
I would consider him an employer, but I think that we have developed a friendship and mutual respect over the years, based on my appreciation and understanding that this guy pays the bills. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we're kind of old school guys in that way, and a lot of he gets criticized for a lot of the things that he does, but like I totally get it where he's coming from on a lot of it, because in a business, he knows business, and in a business situation, whoever's, there is a hierarchy, and I think that based on the fact that I appreciate that, and I do my best to understand that we are able to be friends.
Is Glenn Danzig the Donald Trump of rock and roll?
There's a connection. I could see that.
No apologies, no regrets.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an old school format. It's a retro vision based on almost like resorting back to a 50s thing almost in a way. And I think people miss that in society where there's some standards. But I don't know if Donald Trump has standards. I think Glenn probably has a lot more standards and a lot more. He probably has a lot more ethics than Trump does.
So, would you like to see Glenn Danzig for president?
No, that would be dangerous because that would be a little bit dangerous.
I love it. The highlights of working with Glenn. Let's start off with Circles and Snakes.
Well, I like that a lot. I mean, he gave me a lot to work with, and a lot of the real Danzig fans don't like that record, I don't think, people, it seems like there's a lot of Tommy Victor on that record, and they don't like that. It's definitely a different Danzig record, and obviously that format has been moved away from on later records.
Death Red Sabbath.
That was a good resort back to like old format of Glenn, and Glenn he had a lot of balls on that record. I mean, and he did a lot of he had a good period of writing on that, and I didn't really contribute anything to that record other than taking what Glenn gave me and putting the guitar parts to it. So I like that record. I think it came out good.
The cover album Skeletons, 2015.
Glenn had a vision on that, and whatever he was thinking was what he wanted to do. In later records, he's taken more control of the whole situation, and I didn't really have any input into that other than showing up and doing what he wanted me to do.
Okay, did Glenn mention anything to you about a Misfits reunion?
No, he didn't. What's his business, and what he does is none of my business.
Okay. The highlights of touring and recording with Al Jourgensen / Ministry.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for Al. I mean, Glenn has a lot of balls, and Al has a lot of balls. These guys are where they are because they don't care. And they do it, and they will stuff to happen, and neither one of those guys are like are virtuosos, to say the least. You know, they just make it happen. And Al's dedication to irony and this Timothy Leary mentality of he's almost like eternally on an acid trip, Al. You know, I mean, he could see through people. He's advanced and sometimes he uses that for deviant agendas, but he's you can't mess with that guy. He knows what you're thinking. He knows what other people are thinking, and he laughs at it all. And he's some reincarnated court jester or something.
What do you miss most about Killing Joke bassist Paul Raven? He played with you with Prong, and he also played with Ministry.
Well, his playing was the main thing that I missed. I mean, it's difficult to find a bass player with that kind of groove, who had that kind of presence too, and he's another one, like, he comparable to Al, where these old school punk rock guys that they don't take this life too seriously, and it's unfortunate that he took it as less serious to the fact of death, but. There's I don't understand those. I mean, I guess because of my upbringing, I was brought up with these rules, and I'm still always a little connected to them. Those guys, forget it. I mean, it's like forget rules. Discipline. What are you kidding me? Raven was interesting. I tried to get him back with Prong, a couple of times, and it was like, and then he was so, he was like, you'd always have to worry about him showing up, It's like, that's how serious he took everything. And then he'd pretend he's always like this business guy. He was a very funny guy. And one day I was sitting on a tour bus with him, and on the very few occasions where we actually sat down and were able to hang out together, I mean, he was just watching him and the stuff he was talking about, and then he bought this tattoo gun, and he's like, I'm gonna tattoo myself now. I'm like, hey, it was just like this comedy act for hours. I was like, you're unbelievable, dude. He just kept doing, he's very entertaining guy to be around.
The Blairing Out Show.